So I finally did it. I told you a couple months ago that my Corvette was overheating. And it would only overheat when you're going really slow speeds or stuck in traffic. Whenever you're going 35 or above, it would be fine. So when it started the problem a couple months ago, I told you that instead of buying the radiator fan to fix the car, I went ahead and bought Mr. Nuts Complete in Box. And then I bought another game and another game, and I just kept putting this radiator fan off. And you think with the caliber of car it is that I would take better care of it, but you know, I was managing, I was just kind of sweating a little bit whenever I hit a stoplight. And I just wanted to buy games instead. But I finally did it. I put aside buying video games so I could buy this radiator fan because the weather's warming up, and that played a big factor in it. So I get this radiator fan and I go to install it. And man, I don't know if you've ever worked on cars, newer cars, but there's so much plastic you have to remove off the top of the engine to get to anything. And overall the job is fairly easy, but no matter how straightforward any job on a car is, there always seems to be that one screw or bolt that is just a pain in the butt to get to. So on the Corvette, doing the radiator fan, this one bolt was up right underneath the upper radiator cooling hose. And it was just a pain to reach around everything. And there's two other things that make working on the C7 Corvette a pain in the butt. One is, like all Corvettes, the hood opens backwards. So that looks cool and everything, but to work on it, it makes it more of a pain, just because there's a lot less room under the hood, with the hood opening backwards. The other thing is, it has a really wide front end. The fenders stick out so far. So the whole time you're working on it, you're like this, going over the fenders. I'd hate to be in one of those shops where they hire a bunch of ex-prisoners if the C7 Corvette came in. Could you imagine trying to get that bolt up under the upper radiator hose and then you turn around and Bubba's standing behind you? So anyways, after a little bit of a struggle, I finally get the radiator fan out. So I put it back together, put all the hoses and clips back on, and shut the hood, make sure all the tools are put away, start it up. Then I take it for a test drive. And it's cold and windy outside. So there's a lot of wind going in the car like I'm driving fast, even though I'm purposely driving at slow speeds. So it seemed like everything went smooth. But after a while, I find out that it wasn't the radiator fan that was bad. The car is still overheating. And then for the extra kick in the nuts, it throws a check engine light the same day. So now I had to order another part to fix the cooling issue, which is some weird fuse block. Say block. I can never talk in front of the camera. So now I had to order this other part to fix the cooling issue. That's this really weird fuse block that runs the AC, and it basically tells the radiator fan when to kick on at what temperature. And if that doesn't fix it, I don't know what will, because it's clear that it's the fan not kicking on that's the issue. I mentioned before that I was a mechanic before the Air Force, and this is why I'm not a mechanic anymore today on vehicles. The first oil change I ever did, I had an experienced guy there with me telling me how to do it step by step. And I did everything that he was saying, and I did it all correctly. But the luck of the draw, I got an oil filter that had 2 gaskets on it. It was double gasketed. So when I put everything back together, filled up the car with all the oil and started it up, of course, all this oil just spewed all over the ground. And the guy who's teaching me, he gets mad at me. And I was like, man, I did everything you said. And he's like, you probably put it on cockeyed or something. I'm like, no, it went on smooth as butter. And that's when we looked at it and we found out that there was 2 gaskets on it. And the original gasket was still in the old filter that we took off. So it definitely came that way from the factory, that this oil filter had 2 gaskets on it. But the worst job I ever did by far was the starter on a minivan. I replaced this starter, everything seemed to go smoothly, and when I started it up, it turns out that the starter was actually faulty and it had a crack in it. And when we start up the vehicle, this piece breaks off the starter and starts bouncing all around the transmission and blows a hole through the transmission, causing thousands of dollars of work. You want to talk about being humiliated. Blow up somebody's transmission and cause thousands of dollars in repair to their vehicle. But anyways, this cooling fan, I'm not even going to return it. I could return it and buy a really nice game instead, but I don't feel like going out there to do the work to pull this thing back out. Working on cars used to be a fun hobby to me until it became my job. Once something becomes your job or it starts to become a burden, that's when it's not fun anymore. So I'm just gonna eat it. Yeah, I'm just gonna eat every dollar of it. And that fan is gonna stay in that vehicle. And I feel guilty anyway, returning something. Because eBay is gonna make the seller pay for shipping back. Now the seller is gonna lose money for a part that was perfectly fine anyway. At least I hope it's perfectly fine. What if it is the radiator fan, right? But they just sent me a faulty part? Oh, this could turn into a real nightmare. But anyways, today we have 6 more games that we'll be adding to the collection. Let's check them out. And the first game up is the 7th Saga. The 7th Saga was developed by Produce and published by Enix. It released for the Super Nintendo in 1993. You're an apprentice that just finished a 5-year training period for King Lamel. There are 7 runes scattered across the world of Taekondera, and it's been said that the one who collects all 7 of the ancient runes will have the power to rule all of Taekondera. So King Lamel sends you out on a quest along with 6 other apprentices to find all the runes. You choose from 7 different characters ranging from a warrior to elf to demon. You start off the quest alone, but you can team up with other apprentices later on in the game. There are 7 towns on your quest where you can buy armor, weapons, potions, and other items that will help you on your quest. It's also best to talk to everyone to find important clues. You can also find inns where you can restore your health and save your game. The country is where you transition from towns to dungeons or other towns. You have a crystal ball that serves as a map that the king gave you at the beginning of the game. It shows you where enemies, treasures, and runes are. The country is also a good place to grind and level up your character. Finally, dungeons are loaded with more enemies, treasure, bosses, and runes. The battle system is pretty basic. You have your regular attacks and your magic attacks. Magic also allows you to replenish your health, which really comes in handy. Another thing that really comes in handy is you can play the entire game with one hand. The L and select button are the same as the A and B button respectively. That's really cool. The visuals are good, but the enemies get monotonous, and the music is also repetitive. The controls are good, but I did find myself traveling too far when trying to turn corners, especially when trying to escape enemies. These are all minor complaints though. I had a lot of fun playing the game. I plan to come back and finish playing through it. It's worth playing if you're a fan of RPGs. The 7th Saga is game number 153 for the collection, and it cost me $113 shipped. And at $113, that brings our total up to $27,056 for the collection. And the next game up is Unser Jr.'s Road to the Top. Unser Jr.'s Road to the Top was developed by Radical Entertainment and published by Mindscape. It released for the SNES in 1994. Road to the Top is a third-person racing game. The artwork on the game only shows an IndyCar, so I've always assumed this was just an IndyCar racing game. However, you race 5 different ways in the game. You basically follow the same path Unser Jr. did in real life and start with go-karts. You have to place first, second, or third to advance to the next level. Between each level, you participate in an Unser family tradition and do a timed rally race. You have to beat the time to get to the next level. The second level is a set of snowmobile races. Just like the go-karts, you have to place in the top 3 to advance. After snowmobiles, you have IROCs, and after IROCs, you then finally race Indy cars. If you take first place and only first, you get to race Unser Jr. himself. I actually took first place on the last race, but then I realized I was in practice mode. The startup screen is set up odd. It says 1 player, practice, then difficulty level and sound effects. So I hit start and thought I was playing the actual game. There is no difference between practice and Road to the Top, except in practice mode you can select any course, and in Road to the Top you have to race in order. So although I took first place, I didn't get to race Unser Jr. There are no options to change the number of laps you race, even in practice mode, which is odd. And once you select the type of race you want, you can't back out. You have to enter the race and then quit. Those are just inconveniences though that didn't take much away from the game. I expected a trash game, but Unser Jr.'s Road to the Top is actually a decent racing game with a lot of variety to the racing. It's not overly difficult, the visuals are good so you can see turns coming up and obstacles to avoid. The controls handle well and the gameplay is fun. It does lack in the sound department, but other than that, it's not too bad. If you like racing games, give Road to the Top a shot. It's a lot better than some of the other racing games we've covered. Unser Jr.'s Road to the Top is game number 154 for the collection, and I have $50 in trade for it. And at $50, that brings our total up to $27,106 for the Super Nintendo Complete in Box Quest. And the next game up is Battletoads and Battle Maniacs. Battletoads and Battle Maniacs was developed by Rare and published by Tradewest. It slammed into stores in 1993. High up in the mountains, the Cycone Corporation is testing the TRIPS-21 system, which stands for Total Reality Integrated Player System. TRIPS-21 allows a person to enter the gamescape through a portal. When the portal is turned on, 4 psycho pigs mounted on horseback are approaching. They bust into the test room and kidnap someone. One of the Battletoads, Zitz, tries to stop them and he's knocked out and kidnapped too. They find out Silas Volkmeyer and the Dark Queen are behind the kidnappings, and now Rash and Pimple must stop them. You can play a 1 or 2 player game. 2 player has a 2A and 2B option. Playing 2A will allow you to hit your teammate, and 2B won't allow you to hit your teammate. So you probably want to play on 2B unless you like torture. The visuals and music are excellent in the game. The gameplay is a lot of fun too. As many have said before, the main problem with the game is it's so difficult. You start out with only 3 lives and a couple of continues, and when those are gone, it's game over. There are a lot of Sonic speed parts in the game where you have to learn patterns, and it's just not enough lives and continues to get very far. The controls and hit detection could have used a little bit more work as well. Overall, Battletoads and Battle Maniacs is a fun game, but it's hard and it can get frustrating. It's still worth checking out though. Battletoads and Battle Maniacs is game number 155 for the collection, and I have $200 in trade for it. And at $200, that brings our total up to $27,306 for the SNES Quest. And the next game up is Battletoads Double Dragon. Battletoads and Double Dragon, the Ultimate Team, was developed by Rare and published by Tradewest. It released for the Super Nintendo in 1993. The story here is the Dark Queen is humiliated for her defeat by the Battletoads. She teams up with the Shadow Boss with a new plan to take out the Battletoads. A city-sized spaceship called the Colossus smashes out of the moon and starts heading towards Earth. Of course it's the Dark Queen and she wants to take over. The Battletoads want to make the sides even, so they decide to team up with the Double Dragons. So they pick up the Double Dragons in the Battlecopter and intercept the Colossus. You can choose from 5 different characters to play as: Zitz, Rash, or Pimple from the Battletoads, or Billy and Jimmy from the Double Dragons. This is the same exact game you'll find on the NES, but they did an excellent job upgrading the graphics and sound. They didn't leave everything the same like they did with Ninja Gaiden Trilogy. It would be best to play the game with 2 players, and they also have a 2-player A or B mode, where A allows you to hit your own teammate and B doesn't. I wish Final Fight 2 had that option. Just like Battle Maniacs, Double Dragon is a lot of fun, but it does have a high difficulty level. It's still worth playing and adding to your collection though. Battletoads Double Dragon is game number 156 for the collection, and I also have $200 in trade for it. And at $200, that brings our total up to $27,506 for the Super Nintendo Complete in Box Quest. And the next game up is Capcom Soccer Shootout. Capcom Soccer Shootout was developed by AMAX and published by Capcom. It kicked on the store shelves in 1994. Soccer Shootout is a soccer game with lots of ways to play. There's exhibition, main game, all-stars, training, indoor soccer, and penalty kick mode. In penalty kick mode, the camera is behind the goalie. It's kind of strange at first, but it doesn't take long getting used to. It's one of the better PK modes I've played amongst all the other soccer games. Indoor soccer is unique because the ball is always in play, and you can also pass off walls as a strategy. Out of all the soccer games we've covered so far, which is a lot, this is only the second one with an indoor soccer option if I recall correctly. Exhibition, main game, and all-star mode are regular soccer games, with exhibition being a single game, main game which is a series, and all-star is a series where you choose your players. The game looks and sounds great. I was wanting to give the game a good review, but this game is cheap. You can't keep the ball. While running down the field, you have guys chasing you down like sparrows on a crow, constantly slide tackling you. If you get a goalie kick, the other team will always intercept it. Throw in, intercept. The few times I did get close to the goal, I was fouled every time. Sometimes the fouls weren't even called. When you get a free kick, you can't see your teammates. You can only see the map where they're at. But when your opponents have a free kick, they make the most epic shots. It's not even fair. This game is so annoying. There's also no difficulty option, so you're just stuck getting spanked right from the get-go. Unless you're a hardcore soccer game enthusiast, which I'm not, I'd avoid this one. Capcom Soccer Shootout is game number 157 for the collection, and I have $85 in trade for it. And at $85, that brings our total up to $27,591 for the collection. And the next game up is r-typeIIIthethirdlightning. r-typeIIIthethirdlightning was developed by Tamtex and published by Jaleco. It shot on to the Super Nintendo in 1994. The dark forces of Bido threaten humanity yet again. The Earth Science Center believed the Bido Empire was destroyed, but now they're creeping back towards Earth, more powerful than ever. This time you pilot an R-90 and you must seek out the mysterious mothership creeping towards Earth and destroy it. Starting off the game, you have three options: 1 player, 2 player, or options. When you select option, it only allows you to change your button configuration and mess with the sound settings. That's right, there's no difficulty option in the game. Before you start, you'll choose from different laser units to equip the R-90 with. You can choose from Round Force, Shadow Force, or Cyclone Force. Each of the weapons do different things, and they can change patterns based on the different colored pods you collect. On top of your main weapon, you have a Super Power Beam and a Hyperdrive Beam that deal a ton of damage, but they take some time to charge up. Just like Super R-Type, you can detach your laser unit and it will fire in a different way. You can attach it to the front or back of the ship, and you need to master this skill to get anywhere in the game. Also, like Super R-Type, it's brutally hard. You will die a lot and have to play over and over to learn where the enemies are. The visuals look great and the game has some rockin' music. The controls and ship speed are excellent as well, but that doesn't make the game get any easier. Overall, r-typeIII is a fun shmup, but you'll need to sink a ton of time into it if you're ever gonna beat it. r-typeIIIthethirdlightning is game number 158 for the collection, and I got the box for $357 shipped. Then I found the card manual for $270 shipped, bringing our total up to $627 shipped. And at $627, that brings our total up to $28,218 for the Super NES Complete in Box Quest. Let's get these games on the shelf. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to subscribe. I'm completing the entire Super Nintendo library, complete in box, right here on this show. Also, make sure to leave a thumbs up for Unser Jr.'s Road to the Top. Until next time, I'm Gamer Wayne, and thanks for watching.